Good morning. This is Norma Cowie with our Wednesday Norma Talks. This month, I have been going through what I consider the basics. First, we looked at how we think, which is the framework of your life. Little people, not everyone realizes that, but your thoughts are really important. I always think of it as the framework of a house. You're building a house. And being aware of your thinking is, as far as I'm concerned, very, very important. And it's especially important to just be aware that your thoughts are creating what you want in your life, not what you don't want. And very often we think more about, oh, we don't want this and we don't want that, or we're scared of this or we're afraid of that. So that was our first January Wednesday. Second one is about the emotions, because emotions is what fuels the thoughts. It's what gives it power and how we are emotionally. And so sometimes we're more emotional than thinking, or thinking emotional, but actually we need a balance between the two. We need to be balancing those two. And so the emotional part fills in, if you're building your house, fills in the walls. That takes, it's the part that makes, but really it's the power. The emotions are the power behind the thoughts. Now, I'm just going to say one more thing. Then the third, yes, last week we were looking at problems and challenges. And you might wonder, well, where do I come up with these? And that's the four suits of the tarot. And that's what taught me how to think, how to feel, how to respond, because all of those three things are very, very important in your day-to-day life, how it is working. So then we come to today. And today is, if you're looking at it from a tarot perspective, it is the Pinnacles, which is the manifestation or the results of the previous three. How we think, how we feel, how we respond. Now, life would be wonderful if everything was fine in life. When life is going along really well, when there's no obstacles, when there are no surprises, when there is nothing, it's just great. Then we have these moments in our lives when it works. Now, when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today, it reminded me, which is so surprising how much we kind of forget or don't look. At one time, I did a lot of what I call life readings. And that is just taking a look at the pattern of the life that and when issues and problems come up, big ones, because it deals with the essence of who you are, how we deal with them. Now, what I found out was that some lives had pretty well the major issues all occur, let's say, in the first 20, 30, we'll say 30 years. Probably often even earlier than that. And then you would sometimes do a reading and you would find that the person would be between 30 and 60 would be having their major issues. And then you would see another person and it would be in the latter life. Oh, I used to feel kind of, you might say sorry, which I don't usually go around feeling sorry for people, but I would feel a little sad that the major issues came in the later in the life. But the good news for them was always that they're able to handle and deal with everything that came up. Every life has a challenge. Every life has something that you need to perhaps overcome. Maybe that's a little absolute with every life, but the majority, every life reading I did, they had issues that would come up. Absolute spiritual learning or confrontation within life. Life all of a sudden coming and just, whacking at you. And it's how we respond. It's how quickly do we get back on our feet? How quickly do we assimilate what's happening and then begin to make different decisions or different thinking patterns, etc. So I had all that background in those doing those readings and recognizing, but also in my own life, I have to look at. I've had times where it's been great. Things have just like smooth as silk worked. I've had achievements. I've had, many, many things that have really been supportive and well. And then I've had the opposite, where all of a sudden everything changes. Everything is kind of losing, you build up economic support, your foundation, and all of a sudden it gets wiped out or changed, or you get divorced and everything changes again. Your kids grow up and leave home and everything changes again. You have a new relationship and then that changes. So we deal with change. And I find that people who are fairly controlling where they want to control everything, which is really meaning that underneath, they're really fearful. They're really scared. They're not really confident in their own philosophy or their own awareness. It's like you're waiting for the, I'm going to say this sounds funny, but waiting for the boogeyman to come on out and take everything away. Usually that really goes back to the childhood when whatever they wanted, they either didn't get, or when they did get it, they also lost it. So we make these decisions along the way, and it's to create a world where you feel comfortable, where you feel safe, where you feel a sense that you can generate more of whatever it is that you want and need. And it really relate always to age. Yes, things slow down a little bit when you get older. I think getting in that, and now that I'm in that phase of life, I've really noticed that. But at the same point, when you look back over your life, whether you're 20 looking back, whether you're 30 looking back, you'll see there has been situations that have come up where you've had to rely on your own awareness, your own, I'm going to use positiveness, in the sense of knowing what you want and looking at it. Well, if that doorway's closed, then look at this. I think my mother raised me, I heard it when I was very little. If all the doors seem closed, look for a window. And for some reason, I've always thought I got that from my mom, but I'm not really sure. But it doesn't matter. I was little, I was young, and I heard it. And it's a motto I've taken often when things have not always worked as well as I would like. When all of a sudden, out of the blue, now I've had situations where everything was running smoothly, then something that happened, and I'm going to tell you this one, and because I often use this as an example for me. I was traveling in the US and Canada, presenting different workshops, and I had set up a whole series of traveling. I had spent a lot of money, which is credit card money, on airfares. One of the days I was beginning to make a very big trip. I was going to go to a tarot conference, I think it was, as well. But I was doing some other traveling around that as well. And guess what happened that day? 9/11 happened. I had nothing to do with me. It was on the other side of the continent, in another country. That totally affected my life. Just one person, one little Canadian. I had all these airfares. I had places to go. And if you remember, Americans would remember, the country shut down for 2 months. I was in and out of the US in that 2 months like crazy. Now, that trip that I was going to make right then never, ever got taken, never went, because everything got canceled. The conference I was going to, that one. But the other workshops, those airfares were paid for. I couldn't get a refund from them. And so I went to these cities, but I was like dripping money. That event resulted in me quite a long time later going bankrupt, because I had such a high charge card debt for all these air travels that I could not make it up. And because I'd gone for the hotels and, traveling when you're doing business traveling. And so very often it's not something that you specifically did, but it's this. How do you handle that? And what do you do? I did. My accountant said to me, I really think that you need to declare personal, not business, but personal bankruptcy here. I think this would be a good idea for you. Because I just couldn't get out. No matter how hard I worked, no matter what I did, I couldn't get up and over it. So I was really feeling like out in there. And I did do that. But then again, there's another experience. So I know when I'm talking to someone who's going through that, how they feel, or what some of the energies that they may feel. And I seem to have a life like that I've had lots of experience, so I can understand when people come to see me for various reasons. When I look back, when I went bankrupt, everything changed to leave in the directory, the direction I'm going in to this day. Many things happened. I started doing a lot of different things than I was doing before. I wasn't traveling as much, except then I ended up traveling a little bit. And everything began to grow again from that point. And it led to where I am today, and developed a sense of solidity, economic solidity, and economic awareness. Instead of traveling all over and doing workshops, today, of course, I sit in my apartment and I speak with you, and I lead workshops, and I have consultations with people, and it's very quiet. But then age-wise, it suits actually probably where I am, and I still get to travel in my car here and there. Now, but what I'm really saying is, you can't, life doesn't always go, the bowl of cherries idea. It doesn't always work exactly how you planned. I had everything planned. I was on the top thing, that workshops were coming. I was traveling, which I love to do, by the way. I'm a traveler. And everything was flowing. And an event, over which I had nothing to do with me, in a sense at all, affected 2.5 years of my life before I finally had to surrender and say, yeah, this is beyond me. I can't catch up to this. And it's often what happens. What is it? There's a saying, I remember someone said, a butterfly pads its wings somewhere and they have a tornado somewhere else. Like, everything is interconnected. And if you think that you're immune to the whole surroundings that affect your world, you're not. I mean, basically, you are a person that has an aura, for one thing. And I know the majority of my clients all have huge auras, and I'm always talking about bringing your aura in. But it's also, we're interlaced energetically. Events that occur, and we right now we're listening to them maybe in Europe. Well, actually, there's protests everywhere and thousands of people, which mainstream media isn't always recording, and I hope that doesn't get me into problems here. But it's like there's thousands of people right now have been affected by certain things that are happening, not that they have gone and created it, but that has been put upon them. And so I wanted you to realize that no matter what, you're in command of your world. You have to sometimes accept. I was talking to someone just the other day, and they said, what do I do about that? And I said, you accept it. Because until you accept 100% of what's going on, you're not free ever to change anything. You're not free to begin to look at, because so much sadness and depression and anxiety all comes because people refuse to accept 100%. That's the key. 100%. This is real. This is what's happening now. What do I do? What do I do about it? You are within yourself, the understanding of who you are, the understanding of what you can create has more bounds than you've ever realized. And I found so often I'm needing to say, or saying to people, this needs to be accepted 100%, because it sets you free to make a different decision. And maybe you're depressed because all of a sudden, everything you've dreamed is crumbled away to ashes. But the key is, if you accept that, you can say, okay, how do I take these ashes and rebuild? Or do I leave it all behind and go on a different road? Life is fascinating. And I think when we have enjoyment in life, if you have laughter, if you have fun, if you have all those things, which many of us maybe don't feel is happening right at the moment, it adds spirit, community. And I know a lot of people are missing communities. But coming together and sharing, and especially, I ran a hugs company for a while, and I was a hugger. I was far away from a non-hugger to a hugger, because I had to give hug workshops at times, teaching people how to hug in an effective way. There's lots of things that I personally have done in my life I would not have thought of when I first put my foot down as an adult traveling to, as to what I was going to do. but being led and listening, and then also realizing when that's done and time to move on. Well, it kind of feels to me a little bit over there, but I'm just trusting that I've been able to say that life in itself, you never know what's coming down the turnpike. Even those of us that look and I've been around astrologers for many years. I do predictions myself, but I find for me, I'm more of a psychological predictor. I work with your inner being. But the thing is, what I'm saying is we can predict and everything can change like that. Not because of you, because of outside circumstances. And that doesn't mean you're a victim. It just means, okay, what am I going to do about this? And you will find eventually you come to an awareness and to a beingness, and life, it goes back into being comfortable, secure, and that you can create within the limits of whatever it is that has gone on in your world. Life is good. And if you have a spiritual element, which I luckily do, it really helps you over the bumps that come in life, because there are going to be bumps of some kind. Some of us have medium bumps, some have really heavy bumps, and some of people get away with light bumps because everybody's life path is a little different. And I just want for you all to have a great, great life and accept, decide, move forward in your goals and the reasons of where you're heading and where you're going. So I just trust that you're all well, and I thank you for listening. I trust there's a little bit in here that will help you through with whatever it is that you're going through at this particular time. And I just like to say, I will be back Sunday, and my Monday night mental mind treatment still going on. We're still in experimental mode, but we're getting there. And this coming Monday will be the 4th session of that. And I think that's all I need to say today. Thank you for your likes and your shares and for subscribing. All those things just make my heart warm. Blessings to you. And thank you. Sorry about that. I'm still because something just went right across my screen and I can't see where I am and I can't seem to get rid of it. There we go. Okay, bye now.